Rajim Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Welcome to week number 10, recorded lecture number 27. Today in this lecture, we shall be continuing with the negative messages that we started in the previous lectures, and we will also cover a new topic, that is tender. And let's go ahead with this saying no to a job candidate. Of course, a bad news for the candidate who appeared in job interview, and he or she could not be selected, right? uh, this is a letter format, and this is block format for letter. So it starts with the company letterhead, that is Newport Capital, and their contact information and all that is given. After that, we have this date, June 6, 2018. Then it's inside address of the sender, and after that we have the candidate who is being addressed, who could not be selected for the job, that is dear Ms. Kravchuk. Now it begins with thanking and appreciation, like thanks for letting us review your resume submitted for for our advertised management trainee opening. So it begins with buffer, and that buffer type is appreciation. They are thanking and appreciating the candidate for applying. And this is a neutral buffer, so it does not indicate anything whether the following news will be a good news or it will be a bad news. So we can say that's a neutral sort of buffer. Then let's go ahead to the second paragraph. We received a number of impressive resumes for this opening. This first line of second paragraph should be giving some idea to the reader, to the candidate, that there were a number of people, and this might be preparing the candidate for the bad news. Although another candidate was selected, now this is the clear revealing of the bad news, that although another candidate was selected, they have let the candidate know that somebody else was selected for the post. Your interest in our organization is appreciated, so that you may continue your search for a position at another organization. I'm writing to you immediately, right? Now reveals the bad news, and then encourages the candidate to apply in other organizations. So if we just read these comments that have been given, the left hand side comment says, to prevent possible lawsuit, gives no explanation, right? And towards the right, places bad news in the independent clause, right? Like although another candidate was selected, right? This is dependent clause. Now in second paragraph, in fact, one line reason, that's not the specific reason, but in a broader sense, preparing the candidate. Then the bad news has very clearly been stated, but in a dependent clause. And the reason, specific reasons have not been given, to avoid any legal lawsuits or legal complications. Then the last paragraph, with your credentials, I'm certain you will find a suitable position because you have a great deal to offer. Please accept my best wishes for the future. So ends with the positive clause, with the best wishes. So when you wish someone good for the future, it means you want to keep future positive relationship, right? And then sincerely and name of the person and above name, the handwritten signature is there. So this is another example of bad news letter, and it has very effectively been delivered, and without inviting any legal complications or any such other problems. So let's move forward. Now here is another one that is announcing bad news to employees, right? This is bad news for internal communication. So this one that we are looking at is a draft. Obviously, it shall be having many weaknesses in it, since this is a draft, and we will try to analyze the weaknesses so that when you write your own emails, you avoid such weaknesses. And then in the next slide, we will have a look at the revised version, the improved version. So let's begin with the first two lines. Beginning January 1, your monthly payment for health care benefits will be increased by $119 a month, for a total payment of $639 for each employee. Now they are going to increase their the reduction for the health, like whatever the amount was deducted from the salary of the employees for health. Now they are going to increase it, and it will be increased to $119. Obviously, this is a bad news for the employee, and the email, or this is not email, this is just draft. It's just a Word document draft. So this draft actually begins with the bad news. So if we read this comment on the right hand, hits reader with bad news without any preparation, without preparing their mind, without having any buffer. So if this message is sent this way, this will have negative effect, and the employees will get disappointed from the very beginning. Well, every year health care costs go up, although we consider dropping other benefits. Fairchild Industries decide the best plan was to keep the present comprehensive package. Unfortunately, we can't do that unless we pass along some of the extra costs to you. Last year, the company was forced to absorb the total increase in health care premiums. However, such a plan this year is inadvisable. Now, this second paragraph, though it covers the reasons, and then it mentions how the company has been contributing, and it did mention some of the explanation, but the selection of words, and that's not very open. That seems a bit more defensive, as if the writer is more defensive, right? So that needs to be, the language in this paragraph needs to be softened. The last paragraph, we did everything possible to avoid the sharp increase in the cost to you this year. A rate schedule describing the increases in payments for your family and dependents is included, right? And though the company has, we shall see in the next draft, it seems that the company has even this time absorbed some cost, and but the writer is unable to, effectively communicate it to the reader, right? Since this is the first draft, obviously there is room for improvement, and most probably the next revision that we shall see in the next slide will overcome all those weaknesses that we have come across here in this draft. Now let's see. Uh, this is the revision. We have seen first draft in the previous slide. Now this is the final one that was placed, apparently it seems on their website somewhere in the news section. Well, it begins with the healthcare has always been an important part of our commitment to employees at Fairchild Industries Incorporated. We are proud that our total benefits package continues to rank among the best in the country. Now, in the very first paragraph, this is a buffer, in fact, and it is a positive buffer, reinforcement of their package that they have been offering to their employees, and sharing the information that is one among the best healthcare packages in the country, right? Now, second, such a comprehensive package does not come cheaply. Now, this first line gives some idea that, since we are offering the best package, so there is some cost for it, right? In the last decade, healthcare costs alone have risen over 300%. We are told that several factors fuel the cost spiral: an organization, technology improvements, the increased cost of patient services, and defensive medicine practiced by doctors to prevent lawsuits. So these are actually the reasons, that have been stated in this paragraph, that why the health cost has gone up. Now, the next paragraph, paragraph number 3. Just 2 years ago, our monthly healthcare cost for each employee was 515 US dollars. Now it rose to 569 last year. We were able to absorb that jump without increasing your contribution, but this year's hike to 639 forces us to ask you to share the increase, right? Now, first very clearly states the reason. After stating the reason, gives the specific numbers and mentions the company contribution that they made last year, and they did not ask the employee for any increase. It keeps all the statistics, a specific number, $515, then 569 where they did not ask employee, and now from 569 to 639. And now states the bad news, very technically, but this year's hike to 639 forces us to ask you to share the increase. To maintain your current health care benefits, you will be paying $119 a month. The enclosed rate schedule describes the costs for families and dependents. Now, gives the further details where they can know about this health increase prices, and their exact amount, that can vary from one employee to another employee based on their number of dependents and so on and so forth. Well, last paragraph, Fairchild continues to pay the major portion of your health care program. So reinforces that even now we are paying the major portion, that is $520 per month. We think it's a wise investment. So this basically message ends positively by stressing the company's major share of the cost, so that employees are clear about it, that it's not only that they have their part has increased, but at the same time still company is paying the maximum part, that is $520. Probably by knowing this share ratio, $119 which an employee pays, and $520 that company pays for them, maybe that's going to be uh, logical enough for the employees, and they'll see both sides of the of this change. Okay, let's go ahead with another one, that is email denying a claim. Most probably a customer or a client made a claim about something, and now this email is written to deny that claim. Obviously, you cannot accept every claim. uh, you know People may be asking you, people means the clients may be asking you something that is out of your policy, or that you cannot fulfill, or that's not part of agreement. Then obviously you have to deny such claims, and that is going to be a bad news for the receiver, because they made a claim and that is being denied. So let's see how this claim has been uh, how this denying claim has been made positive and polite. So this is an email to, from subject line, then salutation, dear Mr. Dendron. Let's begin with the first paragraph. You are absolutely right. We sell the finest surround sound speaker at rock bottom prices. The Bang and I guess it's Olufsen Beolub 8000 stereo speakers uh, that you purchased last month are premier concert hall speaker. So these two and a half lines are actually the buffer, right? And in buffer, the writer has used agreement and resale technique, right? Agreement is in the very first sentence. You are absolutely right, right? That agreeing with the client or with the customer. Now going ahead with the second paragraph, we have such confidence in our products and prices that we offer the price matching policy you mentioned in your email of March 15. That policy guarantees a refund of the price difference if you have seen one of your purchases offered at a lower price for 30 days after your purchase. The quality for the refund, uh, customers are asked to send us an advertisement or verifiable proof of the product price and model. As our website states, this price matching policy applies only to exact models with USA warranties. Now, these are actually the reasons, right? These are the reasons, as we have learned in uh, indirect strategy for uh, bad news letters. So first it was buffer, now these are reasons, and in reason they explain price matching policy and how the reader purchase is different from low price model, right? And then third one, after reason, now there should be probably bad news should come in the next paragraph, that is paragraph number 3. Well, the Bang and Olufsen Beolub 8000 speaker set sells for 1199.99. You sent us a local advertisement showing a price of 699.96 for Beolub speakers. This advertisement, however, describes an earlier version, the previous old model. The Beolub 6000, the set you received has a wider dynamic range and smoother frequency response than Beolab's 6000 set. It is also 20% more compact than Beolab's 6000. Naturally, the advanced model you purchased costs more than the older Beolab 6000 model. So, indirectly covers that the advertisement was for the document that the client has sent is for a previous older model, and the one that he or she has purchased, he has actually purchased, is a newer model. So in fact refuses the claim, but indirectly, right? So without actually saying no, shows why the reader's claim cannot be honored, and builds readers' confidence in wisdom of purchase, right? Let's see the last paragraph. You bought the finest compact speakers on the market, Mr. Dendron. If you haven't installed them yet, you may be interested in ceiling mounts and other accessories shown on our website at this and available at competitive prices. We value your business and invite your continued comparison shopping. Sincerely, and so on and so forth, right? So despite the claim has been denied, but you see, nowhere in this email harsh words have been used. Nowhere the customer has been, you know, criticized for sending a different model advertisement. So, that is how the email denies the claim without putting any allegation to the customer, without losing their customer. In fact, the email has made every possible effort to keep their customer, for the future buys, and that is, of course, success of the business. So let's move. Now here we shall go to the next topic, that is tender. You may have seen these tenders published in newspapers usually, and on different websites also. I'll also show you after 2 3 slides. So first let's try to understand what is tender, and that's a very small topic in our course outline. So we'll be discussing only a few guidelines, since we cannot allocate a lot of time for it according to our course outline. So, tendering usually refers to the process where governments and financial institutions invite bids for large projects that must be submitted within a finite deadline. When we see the tenders, uh, things will be clear to you. Usually, they are published by government or other financial institutions, and they can be usually they are for the large projects. For very small projects, usually they are not published because there is always some cost for the tender and all that. So that's why this point has been added. Well, number two, through tenders, suppliers and contractors are invited to provide offers for supply or service contracts. Like, tenders can be published to hire services or to take services of interested companies, or they can also be published to purchase certain equipments or other required things. Number three, invitation to tenders are often used by public sector organizations. Often private sector can also do so, which are largely obliged, sorry, yeah, which are legally obligated, I'm sorry, which are legally obligated to offer contracts for goods or service requirements by that process in many countries. And the companies, the government companies or the public companies are bound to hire services and purchase different equipment that is required through tender, right? Perhaps One of the reason is that the process can be made more transparent and equal opportunity can be given to all prospective service providers or goods providers to do business with the public money. So in Pakistan, PPRA, Public Procurement Regulatory Authority, is the concerned department for tendering, and it monitors this all tendering business. So we shall be discussing a few guidelines that PPRA has published on their website for published tenders, and then we will practice it for one or two tenders today. Now, this is desirable minimum information to be provided in tender notice, right? And it's suggested by PPRA. In fact, I have taken these, you know, minimum information guidelines from PPRA website. They are open and publicly available on their website. Now, the first thing, the tender, a published tender should have is name of the procuring agency. Procuring agency is actually the company that has published tender for services or goods, right? Number two is the tender number for identification. Usually the tenders have some specific number. We shall see some examples. Number three is the procurement title, right? And this procurement title actually is the detail about the quantity and type of the services or goods that the company is looking for. Number four is the contact person, who should be contacted in that company for further information about that tender, that has been published. Number five is last date for obtaining bidding documents and its price. Tenders are not very detailed documents. They can be half a page of a newspaper, but that is, they do not carry out the complete details. So those companies that are more interested in doing business, or they want to respond to that published tender, they require complete details. Those details can be obtained from the company offices, the company that has published tenders, from their offices, and there is some price for that, and that price is not to be returned. For example, if I give you an example, when you took admission at NAD, so there was some last detail for taking admission form and the prospectus. That prospectus has complete detail about the programs and about the university. Similarly, there are certain tender documents, and those documents have some price. It can be 4,000, 5,000, and that is price of that document. That is not refundable. You cannot go back and say, okay, give me my money back. That is price of the document that you shall be purchasing. Number six actually is closing time and date as well as place for receiving bids. Bids are submitted against the published tenders, right? Those tenders that are published in newspaper, in response to those tenders, bids are submitted, right? Bids carry out the price that you offer for the published service or for the published goods. Number seven actually is number six is you have to mention the closing date, that when should the bids be submitted, and the closing time should be mentioned, date should be mentioned, and place should be mentioned for receiving the bids, right? Point number seven is time and place of public opening of bids. Bids must be open on the closing date. It's linked to point number six. If you have decided to make closing date, say 18th December 2020 at 12, so the bid must be open on the same date. Like suppose, usually if the bid closing date is 18 December 2 o'clock, then maybe the bids should be open 18 December maybe at 2:30 or so. right? And by public opening, we mean that suppose the tender was published for purchase of say 20 generators, and there are 20, there are five interested companies that want to provide these 20 generators to NAD University. So all those five companies will submit their bids, and suppose on 18th December those all five bids are open in the presence of representatives of all those five companies who have submitted the bids, right? Then number 8 is amount of bid security. We sometimes it's also written as earnest money. So this is the uh, amount that is security deposit. Suppose each company that submits the bid say is required to submit 2% security. So this security amount will be refunded to them if they are unable to get the contract, and if they get the contract, it will be adjusted, to the cost. Number 9 is time period for performance of contract, right? They also have to mention how much time, when should they be providing that equipment or service. For example, if that was for generators, and there a date should be mentioned that generators should be delivered to NAD University, say on or before say March 25, 2021. So performance date should be mentioned. Let's have a look at a tender. Okay, so let us start with this invitation to bid or tender, uh, and discuss according to the points that PPRA has given minimum requirement for published tenders. So the first, number one, is name of the procuring agency. So in this tender, this you know Pakistan LNG Limited is the procuring agency, right? Number two is tender number. Tender number I cannot locate here. I cannot see tender number here. Number three is procurement title. Procurement title actually includes the type and details. So here we have the second paragraph. Bids are invited from reputed international suppliers for the supply of 3 LNG cargoes on a delivered ex shipment DES basis at Port Qasim, Karachi, Pakistan. Right? And then further details. So, this is point number 3 that indicates the detail. In fact, further detail is given. And if we go to this next, so this is the detail. Tender number is mentioned here. Yes. Point number 2, that was tender number, that is mentioned here in this first column of the table. So we got tender number, we have already found name of the procuring agency. Point number 3, procurement title, details are mentioned here. Cargo 1 details, cargo 2 details, cargo 3 details. So we have found 3 points. Point number 4 of PPRA is contact person. Well, contact person is given at the bottom. I'll show you in the next slide. At the bottom of this published tender, the contact person name and designation is mentioned. So I'll take you to point number 4 in the next slide. Point number 5 is last date for obtaining bidding document and its price. So here we see bid documents may be obtained from Office of Pakistan LNG Limited in person or through email request at so and such email address from the date of advertisement to January 15, 2021. A non-refundable fee for Pak rupees 2000 in the form of pay order or bank draft in favor of Pakistan LNG Limited must be submitted at the time of collection. So this whole paragraph is actually point number 5, last date for obtaining bidding documents and its price. So both things have been covered in this paragraph. Point number 5 is covered in this paragraph. Let us move forward. Now, next point number 6 is closing time and date as well as place for receiving bids. I'm reading these points from the PPRA points that have already been shared in the PPT. So let's read this paragraph. The bid prepared in accordance with the instruction in the bid document must reach the office of PLL at the address given below on or before 12 hours PST on January 15, 2021. The bids will be opened the same day at 12:30 hours PST. I think that's Pakistan Standard Time as per PEPRA rules. Now, point number 6 that PEPRA says is closing time and date as well as place of receiving bids. So, closing date of the bid is mentioned January 15. Closing time is mentioned, 12 o'clock. And of course, the place is mentioned, that is, that Pakistan LNG Limited office. Point number 7 is time and place of public opening for bid. This point number 7 has also been covered in the same paragraph. This last line, the bids will be open the same day at 12:30 PST as per PPRA rules. So this point 7 is time and place of bid. Time of bid opening has been mentioned, and place, of course, the Pakistan LNG office or the address is given below. Now point number 8 is amount of bid security. Let's see if this is mentioned. Well, I have not come across here. Maybe it's in the above slides. Bid security is the security deposit, and usually it is in percentage. I cannot see it in this PPT. Perhaps it was in one of the previous PPTs. The last point number 9 is time period for performance of contract. Let's see if it is mentioned. No, this point number 9 is also not included in this tender, right? At least I cannot see right now. Okay, so this and point number 4 that we left, contact person, and here it is at the bottom. Pakistan LNG Limited Assistant Manager Procurement. So Assistant Manager Procurement is the contact person, point number 4 for this tender. So you can similarly practice these 9 points that are given by PP on this tender that has been given. So you can practice it, and I'll ask you in the next online session to find out these 9 points in this provided tender. For more for practice, you can visit these 2 websites. You can go to other newspapers. They are published in newspapers also, or you may use other sources also. But for practice, you can get many tenders from PPRA website and another website that I just came across today. So you can visit these websites to get more tenders for practice. So inshallah, see you in the next class. Thank you very much, and take care.